Hello everyone, my name is Abby and I'm the Young Adult Assistant at the Twin Lakes Library System and I use she, her pronouns. So today I thought I would film in a different location than where I've been filming the past couple days. But for this Must Read Monday, I wanted to do something a little different, but it's sort of to honor Justice Ginsburg since she has unfortunately passed away. And I wanted to talk about some books that I feel show really powerful female characters. So all of these books you can check out from our physical collection and go and pick up through our drive-thru. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So the first book that I wanted to talk to you all about is Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. And Common Sense Media recommends this for ages 13 and up. And so this book follows two main characters, Noemi Vidal, who is a soldier on a planet that is not Earth, and she's trying to protect it from being invaded by Earth and taken over by Earth. And she is a fighter pilot soldier who wants to make sure that they don't come and take it from her, and is kind of willing to do anything to protect her home and the people she cares about. And the other main character is Abel, who is a mech or a robot who has been kind of left in space for 30 years by himself. And during that time, he sort of started to develop human feelings and consciousness. And he wants to be with people, but he also wants to make sure that his creator is protected and that he kind of fulfills the purpose that he is meant to do. So the two of them are not friends. They're on opposite sides of this interstellar war, and they, because of certain circumstances, meet up and are forced to work together to get where they need to go. And they sort of start to grow closer and question things that they initially thought were true from the beginning. So, what I loved about this book, well, it's a series. There are 3 books in the series, I believe. I think it's only going to be a trilogy. And I'm not a big sci-fi person, but I found this a really easy sci-fi to get into. I really enjoyed reading it. I felt that it was very fast-paced and exciting, and it wasn't too overly complicated, because for me, someone who is not super science-brained, it's sometimes I feel hard to navigate sort of sci-fi books because they make me feel not as intelligent, but I found that this one is good and it's not stressful to read. And then, of course, Noemi. She is our powerful female figure in this book. She's really, really cool. She's really passionate about keeping people safe. It's very important to her that the people she cares about are protected. She's very complex, and she's so brave and, willing to do anything, is willing to sacrifice anything, which I think is she's incredible. I really like her. And then I also really like Abel, though, who is our, male protagonist. He is really funny, and he is a little naive in terms of how to handle the world, because he's been in space for 30 years by himself, so he doesn't really know how to interact with people, and it's interesting to watch him kind of go across. And then I also think this book just talks about really complex themes, what it means to be human, questioning things that we were initially told. So I think it has a lot of interesting, compelling themes in it. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to be talking about is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lainey Taylor. And this is also in our physical collection, and it's Common Sense Media has recommended it for ages 14 and up. And so I would like to be sort of mysterious with this plot summary because it's very mysterious on the book. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's not really like an explanation of what the book is about on the book, which I think is intentional. It's just a very short little blurb. But essentially, So in the world that this book is set, around the world, these black handprints start appearing on doorways. And they're put there by strange beings that no one knows what are there. And they're that kind of is like leads into the greater plot, but essentially you're following Karou, who is an art student in Prague, and she lives with these creatures, these supernatural creatures, and she's always lived with them. She doesn't remember a time before them. They're called monsters, but they're really her family, essentially. And she, she's very interesting. She speaks many languages. Her hair grows the color, like it's blue. It grows out of her head blue. And she is very mysterious. She doesn't really know much about herself, and not a lot of people know much about her either. So she's just fascinating to follow. And she sort of encounters these handprints and some of the creatures that are doing it, and things sort of start to connect, and she sort of starts to better understand who she is and the danger that is happening around her. So why I loved this, sorry, this is on my chair, so it spins a little. Why I love this. It's a series as well. It is a trilogy, and I believe there is one novella that follows Karou's friend. That's good, but it is a series. Those are the other books up there on my shelf. But yeah, so, you get a lot. This book is pretty slow paced at the beginning, but it picks up a lot in the second half. And then it's nice that it just follows through in the rest of the series, kind of detailing more and giving you more information, because Lainey Taylor wants it to be mysterious, so she keeps it pretty mysterious in the beginning. Karou, who is our powerful female figure, she is so funny. She's very powerful. She's very compelling. Her backstory is fascinating. Her life is fascinating. Once you, if you read it and you get the information, it's so cool. And she has such a cool and compelling backstory, and she's fascinating, and she doesn't let anything stop her, and she just kind of goes about her life, and she's very yeah, I'm being raised by monsters, and my hair is blue. That's my life, and she's totally okay with it, which I think is awesome, so that's nice to see. And I really love her as a character. She's one of my favorite YA characters that I've ever read, so I highly suggest reading it just for her, if nothing else. The writing, Lainey Taylor is known for her beautiful writing, and not an exception in this book. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's incredible. She never disappoints with it, so love seeing that. The world building and the magic system in this book is really interesting. It's not something I've ever seen before in YA. Sometimes fantasies start to sort of overlap in themes and tropes, but this one is very original, I think. And it's one of the original YA fantasy books. Let's see when it was published, just for reference. Yeah, it was published in 2012, so kind of when YA fantasy supernatural books started becoming a big thing. This is one of the first. I really like how mysterious the book is. I like that you're kind of in the dark for most of it. I think that's fun. It's an interesting storytelling technique, and I enjoyed seeing it. So. And then the last book that we are going to be talking about today is Six of Crows. That one. By Leigh Bardugo, and it's also in our physical collection, and it's for ages 14 and up is recommended. So the plot of this book, so just for a little backstory, she has another series which is right here on my shelf, but it's called the Grisha series, and it's sort of Six of Crows is set in that same world, but it doesn't follow the same characters. They're little cameos of those characters or mentions, but you don't have to read that one to read this. It'll still make sense to you. But so it's in this Grisha world where magic exists and all this other thing, so that's kind of just some general background. But this book particularly is set in Ketterdam, which is kind of an area that's full of a lot of trade and criminal activity. And one of those criminals is Kaz Brecker, and Kaz is a 17-year-old ringleader of this criminal group, and they, steal and they thieve and they con, and they're really morally very gray people. And he is offered a chance to participate and pull off this really complex and intricate heist. It's very dangerous, but if he's successful, and his crew is successful, he'll be very rich. But of course he can't do it by himself because it's very hard and it would be too difficult to do it by himself. So he has his crew come with him. And Goodreads kind of lists them out. So I'm going to read the Goodreads description, and I believe this is also the summary on the book itself. But it's a convict with a thirst for revenge, a sharpshooter who can't walk away from a wager, a runaway with a privileged past, a spy known as the Wraith, a heart-trender using her magic to survive the slums, and a thief with a gift for unlikely escapes. And so all of those are characters that you will follow in this book, and they are trying to perform this heist, but they realize it's a lot deeper and a lot more important as the story goes on, and really bad things might happen if they fail. So that's the general plot of the book. So why I loved it. This is a series. This is a duology, which if you don't know what a duology is, it just means there are 2 books in the series. So there's this book and then the second book, which is, the name has eluded me all of a sudden, but it is also very good. And so if you're not wanting to commit to like a really long series, but you like the fact that the story is a little longer than just one book, that's perfect. This series is perfect for you. Duology, perfect. I also really loved the characters in this book. So Kaz is technically our main character, but it's a multi-perspective book. So you get the perspective of all those like differently described characters that have been mentioned. And this book has 2 really powerful female lead characters, which is Inej, who is the Wraith, and Nina, who is a magician, Grisha sort of person. It'll be explained in it. Both are incredible. Both are so powerful and, very different from the typical female lead in YA books. Love them both dearly. Very body positive and powerful and just out there doing great things. And I'm so glad that they're in this book. They're my favorite characters in this book, and I love them so much. And then just general, the characters are all very complex. Like I said earlier, they're very morally gray because they are criminals, like that's their whole thing. But they're really lovable, and I love them all. This book is a very character-driven book, which means the plot is there and it's important, but you're really more focused on the characters, and I like that as a form of storytelling, so I enjoyed that a lot. So, this is also a heist book, so if you love a good heist movie, you'll probably enjoy this book a lot. It's really fun. It's not something... I feel like it's become more of a trend since this book was released, because this book was really popular when it first came out. But it does the heist sort of plot really well, and it's fascinating, all the twists and turns that happen in it. I found that this book was really well paced. Nothing felt too fast, nothing felt too slow. It was a good mixture of the 2, and it worked really well, and everything was revealed in a timely manner, and it didn't feel like it came out of nowhere, so I liked that. I found that it was a really exciting book. Really, the heist is gives you an adrenaline rush, how they deal with certain things and how they go about coping with certain things. And then this book, while recommended for ages 14 and up, personally I think it's a pretty dark YA book. Just some of the violence that happens in there, some of the backstories of the characters are pretty dark. Some more mature themes, I think. So I personally would maybe give it a little higher of a rating of like 15, but I think that this book works really well with those themes. They're not too heavy-handed, but they are there, and they are important to character development and different character arcs, and I think they're fascinating and really well done. And like I said, I don't feel like it's super heavy-handed, but it's definitely there, and it makes it really compelling and a more mature YA book. And some people, I think, don't like to read YA because they don't think it's mature enough, which I disagree on a variety of different reasons. But Six of Crows in particular, I think, is a great example of how it sort of is starting to make a jump to more adult themes in books, and presentations of characters are more complex than you would initially assume. So I really like that. So those are the 3 books that I have to recommend for you all, and I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.